Welcome to House of History. One of my viewers suggested the Cowra breakout as an interesting topic to explore in a video. During the Second World War, a POW camp in southeast Australia nearby the township of Cowra housed mainly Japanese and Italian prisoners. During the night of August 5, 1944, a bugle sounded in the dead quiet night. As the camp's guards would soon find out, this sound was a signal for hundreds of Japanese prisoners to storm the outer fences and 6 guard towers, brandishing nothing but makeshift weaponry. That night, the largest and single most bloody POW prison break of the entire Second World War commenced, all of it happening nearby that middle-sized, quiet township of Cowra. By August 1944, Australia housed a bit over 12,000 POWs. On Australia's mainland, a significant POW camp was located near the middle-sized town of Cowra, situated in the central west of New South Wales, inhabited by around 3,000 Australians. Its location is a bit over 300 kilometres to the southwest of Sydney. As for the prisoners, the camp housed approximately 2,200. A little over half of them were Japanese captured during the brutal fighting in the Pacific. A significant number were Italians as well, either captured in the Middle East or merchant sailors picked up by the Royal Australian Navy patrolling the Pacific. The prison complex was a relatively large near-circular compound. It covered an area of over 30 hectares, which is the equivalent of around 56 football fields. Encompassing the compound were 3 barbed wire perimeter fences, and in between these fences lay more barbed wire. As the map shows, it was subdivided into 4 elements compounds, A, B, C, and D. They were divided by 2 roads, the so-called no man's land, moving from west to east, and Broadway, moving from north to south. On the northern point of Broadway was the main gate, and lights brightly illuminated the entire road during nighttime, hence the name. 6 guard towers and Vickers machine guns surrounded the entire camp. Surely, if there would be an outbreak, it would have to occur in secret by digging a tunnel, the much preferred method of Allied and German escapees. Storming the fences would be no more than a suicidal mission. Compound A and C housed Italians. According to some personal testimonies besides Japanese officers, Compound D housed Formosans, but even some Koreans and Chinese prisoners. Presumably, the Japanese Kwantung Army drafted these men from occupied territories. Compound B was reserved for Japanese non-commissioned officers and junior ranks. Australia's 22nd Garrison Battalion guarded them. The 22nd was mainly composed of old or disabled veterans of the First World War or younger men considered unfit for frontline service. An interpreter working in Compound D later reminisced that he didn't feel safe because most of the prisoners comprised young men, while most armed guards were old and could easily be overpowered. During the day, Italian prisoners were allowed to work outside of the compound on the neighboring farms. There are many stories of Italians returning with heavy containers, and guards and other staff soon realized the Australians smuggled vegetables into the camp. As such, Italians tended to have a better diet than the guards themselves. According to historian Charlotte Carr-Gregg, Italians didn't necessarily see an inherent problem with being captured in terms of dishonor or personal failure. Capture was part of waging war, and they even somewhat appreciated the Australians closely adhering to the Geneva Convention. They were fed, clothed, and treated with dignity. The Japanese perceived this in a wildly different fashion, though. Carr-Gregg collected statements of both prisoners and people schooled in Japan right before the Second World War broke out. Without going too much in depth, it is safe to say Japanese prisoners generally interpreted their capture as a personal failure. They should have instead taken their own lives or died on the battlefield. Accounts of Australian guardsmen reiterate this sentiment. Japanese prisoners often gave a fake name when they were arrested, in the hope their families would think they died during battle and never found out they were imprisoned. The fact the Australians adhered closely to the Geneva Convention was perceived as a laughable thing, and seen as weakness on the Australians' part. Undoubtedly, they must have feared the might of the Japanese Empire. Why else would they treat their prisoners with dignity? In another study by Carr-Gregg, she claimed that the Japanese prisoners were likely aware of Japan losing the war. Cowra camp had newspapers readily available to prisoners, and a few prisoners would often read and translate them to the rest. Still, a breakout seemed unlikely. After all, the Australian guards treated their prisoners well, and at most the prisoners had cutlery, but no real weapons. Due to the 3 barbed wire fences, guard towers, and the Vickers guns, the guards weren't too worried. In fact, in June 1944, after guards learned of a mass breakout in the making, Army officials upped Cowra security. They installed 2 more Vickers machine guns, an additional Owen and Bren gun, and more rifles were distributed among the guards. The breakout wasn't necessarily planned far in advance. It was hastily orchestrated after Camp B prisoners learned of relocating junior ranks to a different POW camp on August 4th. According to the Anzac Day Commemoration Committee, Sergeant Major Kanazawa called the meeting of 20 hut leaders. Each hut leader had to test the waters among their men for the willingness for a mass escape. Although not all hut leaders agreed eventually, the decision was made to launch the mass breakout anyway, no matter the cost. Other Japanese prisoners that were either too sick or too weak to escape were ordered to take their own lives to regain their honor. In the middle of the night on August 5, 1944, at least 545 Japanese prisoners of war launched their breakout of the camp, and around 2 a.m. that night, amidst utter darkness and quiet, a Japanese bugle sounded. Another prisoner ran towards the guard tower and started shouting at the well-defended machine gun emplacements. And if some guards weren't aware of what was happening just yet, the subsequent loud shouting of banzai and general screaming of over 1,000 prisoners storming out of their huts certainly alerted them. Armed with baseball bats, iron pipes, improvised clubs, and sharpened kitchen knives, they stormed the outer perimeter fences and attacked the guards. This map shows what happened next. 2 mobs of prisoners stormed to the northeastern fences, attempting to cut the wire. Another group stormed the main gate and guard posts, which had machine guns installed on them. They used improvised weaponry and launched a suicidal charge at the Australian camp guards, in line with the suicidal charges GIs saw all around the Pacific. A 4th group crossed Broadway and attempted to link up with Compound D, where the Japanese officers, Formosans, Koreans, and Chinese were housed. Guards and sentries at first fired warning shots, accidentally cutting the main electricity cable. The rest of the escape occurred in utter darkness. The first sentry to be overrun was manned by Privates Benjamin Hardy and Rolf Jones. Realizing the mob was too large, they began firing into it, as it was coming right at them. But the prisoners were with too many, and they were overrun. Private Jones' final act was to hide the Vickers machine gun's lock so that it was rendered useless to the Japanese. This most likely prevented them from killing many more guards. Private Shepard too was slain near the main entrance of Broadway. 4 other Australian guards suffered injuries. Meanwhile, the 2 groups storming the outer perimeter fences managed to break through. Using blankets, prisoners climbed over the barbed wire fence. The groups that entered Broadway were taken under fire from Australians on both ends, pinning the escapees down. None of the escapees attempting to link up with Compound D, where the Japanese officers resided, managed to get out, yet 334 prisoners managed to break through the fences and disappear into the night. It wasn't until the next morning that the Australians could assess the absolute bloodbath that had taken place here during those short moments after 2 a.m. Immediately, the Australians called in every military branch's help to recapture the escapees. The Royal Australian Air Force, military force, trainees, the Women's Battalion, and even the regular police officers all joined the manhunt. But often when escapees were about to be captured, they decided to go out on their own terms. Examples are of 2 escapees that jumped in front of a train, others hanged themselves when they realized there was no escape, and others that failed to finish the job begged their captors to kill them. Yet, official records reveal local civilians shot only 2 prisoners. The military shot around a dozen. The final death toll on the Australian side was 4. So, 3 guards died during the escape attempt, and Lieutenant Harry Doncaster was killed during the manhunt. Details are a bit vague, but it is assumed he was ambushed by escapees a bit over 10 kilometers north of Cowra. No civilians appear to have been harmed during the breakout, something the Japanese leaders ordered. It took the Australian military 9 days to rearrest all escapees. The furthest away was an escapee captured at Yogowra, over 50 kilometers away from the camp. In total, Australian troops rearrested 334 escapees. Either 231 or 234 Japanese prisoners died and 108 were wounded. At least 31 among them took their own lives. After the events, Australian Premier John Curtin described the breakout of Japanese POWs' conduct as showcasing suicidal contempt for life. In 1950, Private Benjamin Hardy and Rolf Jones were awarded the George Cross posthumously. The Japanese troops that died in the escape attempt were buried in a specially designated Japanese war cemetery opened in 1963. It is the only one in Australia. Besides Japanese escapees, several casualties of the Darwin bombings are buried there as well. In 1979, Australia's government established the Japanese Gardens, emphasizing and symbolizing the good relationship between Japan and Cowra. After the war, the Cowra escape wasn't that well known to the outside world. Historian and journalist Harry Gordon popularized the breakout when he published Voyage of Shame, a detailed study into the escape. With over 200 deaths, this deadliest escape attempt ever by Japanese POWs was quite different from German POWs' escape attempts in the United Kingdom and United States. But I've created videos of those events and several other escapes if you're interested. One of them should appear on screen shortly and others are available on my channel. Thank you very much for watching this video. If there's a topic or event you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also really like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you will already gain access to the exclusive Patreon series. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.